The inside story on the issues that affect you and your community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
For the last several years, news about the Cincinnati Fire Department has focused on two things. First, dramatic footage of firefighters risking their lives to protect others and to protect property. And second, news of companies being browned out, temporarily shut down. There is progress on the second front that will make it safer for the firefighters and the public in the first part. Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. I'm Dan Hurley. Cincinnati has a proud history of professional firefighting, and anyone who knows a firefighter personally, no matter where they serve, knows that there is something special about firefighters. They will literally risk their lives in the face of roaring flames, but they will communicate calm confidence when they are called on a medical run to take care of someone experiencing a heart attack or a seizure. Like every part of local governments in Ohio, the Cincinnati Fire Department has had its budget slashed, forcing the department to impose brownouts, temporarily idling certain companies for a day or two or whatever. That neither the leadership or the local communities likes. But things may be improving. To talk about the future of the Cincinnati Fire Department, I am joined by the chief, Richard Braun. Chief Braun was appointed in January 2011. Before joining the Cincinnati Fire Department, he served with the Columbus Fire Department for 36 years, including 11 as assistant chief. Chief Braun, welcome to Newsmakers.
Thank you, and I appreciate it.
You and I have never met, so welcome to Cincinnati.
Thank you very much.
This whole question of brownouts has been driving a lot, I know, of your attention, and there was just a graduating class. You graduated in February, and that was going to put 41 new firefighters out in the department, on the streets, in the houses. Where do we stand on the brownout question right now?
Right now, where we are is a lot of our staffing is geared, obviously, like everyone, towards the season. This is a low vacation season for us, so the past several days, for instance, we've had no brownouts or one brownout. On weekends, when people take off, we can be up to 3 or 4, sometimes 5, which is the maximum that we go to. The recruits that are on the street went a great way in cutting our brownouts back. They didn't reduce them, but it's heading us in the right direction. As the one thing, when they graduated, it brought our staffing to 821, but we have retirements. So in the 4 or 5 weeks since they graduated, we've already retired 7 people, so we're down to 814. This is why it's important for us to continue to have our classes to get our close to our authorized strength.
So if so you're at 814 now.
814 now.
What would you say is a full complement that allows you to get rid of brownouts and to run the department the way you believe it should?
The way it should, I'm looking at, and our current authorized strength is 841.
Okay.
But before then, before I got here in 2009, they added 2 medic units, but the authorized strength wasn't increased to show those. Also, in the meantime, we've put in 3 safety officers, 1 on each of our 3 units, which have more than paid for themselves. Their job is to watch over fire scenes and make sure that the firefighters are safe. They watch the buildings. They're a good tool for the incident commander to use. And we had one right after they first started that pulled 4 firefighters away from a building. He didn't look like the way the building was looking, and sure enough, about 3 minutes after they moved, the building collapsed, and right where they were standing, most of the rubble came down. So conceivably saving 3 lives, or at least serious injuries to our firefighters. But we should be, and I'm putting a proposal in to the city manager to raise our authorized strength to 890, which would also take in consideration if we ever had to add a unit down the road, we would be there. But right around the 850 to 860 mark is what you were asking for to get us to where we can basically cut out the brownouts and run the department at the minimum staffing that we have.
One of the things that you know, everybody knows about, well, I think most people know about the fire department is, even though the dramatic footage that we love to run on television, the structure fires is one thing, but day in and day out, you're running on medical runs. I mean, that has just kept increasing over the years, and actually the big structure fires have declined over years because of all sorts of safety considerations and whatever. Is there a way, is anybody else in the country, any other city, large city, have they reorganized in a way that you think might offer an alternative for the right way to use the staff that you have to keep the city safe on both the medical side and the fire side?
Right now, I like to believe that Cincinnati is on the cutting edge. Where I came from Columbus, they have a huge EMS system in Columbus with their fire. They have a medic unit in every station, which means they have 32 medic units. We have 12 in Cincinnati. They staff them with 2 paramedics, and every station has, every engine is a paramedic engine company. They're now adding 3 new medics, so they will have 35 medic units in that city, which is a tremendous amount. What we're trying to do here is combine our medics with our fire companies. They assist on fire runs. Our fire companies assist on EMS runs, which basically gives us the biggest bang for our tax dollar.
Well, one of the things that always, not sure, it doesn't seem right to me, but maybe you're telling me right now it is, that on medical runs you initially send out a pumper. A fire truck goes out to the site before you decide whether or not to send an ambulance in our normal terms. And it always seems strange. Is that the right thing to be doing?
Well, you're not quite on line with, with the way we do it.
All right.
Our medic units get sent on an ALS run, advanced life support run, where someone's having a heart attack, a stroke, something life-threatening.
They go right away.
They go right away because time is critical.
With no truck going?
A truck goes with them.
Truck goes with them.
So we send the truck and a medic unit. The reason being, it's very similar to fires. If you have a heart attack or a stroke, or it's very labor intensive. There's a lot of jobs to be done, especially with the equipment that our medics have today. Back 30 years ago, the rule of thumb was you go and you package the person up and run them to the hospital as quick as you can, not giving any pre-hospital care. In today's world, with the technology we have, our medics give a lot of pre-hospital care, starting IVs, EKGs, getting all their information, drug interventions. So they do a lot on the scene while they package the patient and get them. It takes at least 7, 8 people to do that, because you're also not in a hospital, so you have to manage the scene that you're around. Someone has a heart attack in their kitchen with their family there. Some of our medics have to deal with the family. What drugs are they taking? Someone has to get the cots. So it's very labor intensive, and a lot of skilled jobs have to be done during that time. So that's why we send both. If someone calls in and it's minor or basic life support, and someone's broke their arm or have a nasal hemorrhage or something, then we just send the engine company, which all of our engines are paramedic engines also. So if they happen to get there and the scene is worse than what was anticipated, there is a medic there. He has all the equipment he needs, and then they would call for a medic unit to come and assist them on that.
In Columbus, where they have so many more identified paramedic units, do they send a fire truck out too?
They send, yes, they do. They send.
So they do?
Yes.
Same thing, because of the personnel needs.
Exactly. The same, They do it the same way.
All right. So. I'm willing to accept it. It just always has seemed strange to me.
Yeah, and remember, the key thing that we gear to is time. And so our stations are strategically placed around this city for time to get us there originally for fires, and now not only for fires but for EMS runs. So you know that if you call in and you're having a heart attack, that you're going to get the closest medic unit, be it an engine company or a medic, whichever one is right there to get. And it's very comforting for people to know that they can look at their nearest fire station and they know that's our nearest medic unit.
You know, you talked about all this training, and one of the things that you're going to be able to do, you just graduated this one class, you have a grant that you're going, a federal grant,
yes,
that you're going to be able to create another class. What is fire training like today compared with when you started?
Well, when I started 40 years ago, I went through training academy for 10 weeks. And we were taught the basics, hydraulic, how to put ladders up, how to advance hose lines, and basic EMT. Today it's over 6 months, and then after the 6 months they have a 3-year apprenticeship program. They learn so much more now, more than I learned when I was in the training academy. There are just a number of state certifications that our firefighters hold. Their paramedic, their firefighter certification, their inspector certification, hazmat certification, and the list just goes on and on. And with that certification, they just don't get it one time and then they're done with it. Then they have to keep up and get recertified every 3 years. And then we have to show, and audits can be done by the state, that you have gotten the continuing education that you need, credit hours, to continue when you re-up.
And are these state requirements for all of these different certifications?
They're all state requirements. Some are federal requirements, such as our bomb squad. We send them to Alabama, and the federal government pays for that to become bomb technicians. You're only allowed to have so many bomb technicians, and we have our full complement of bomb technicians.
What do you mean you're only allowed to have so many?
Well, you can't go, and I can't send 100 people down to become bomb technicians. They say
okay,
for our city you can have 21 bomb technicians,
okay,
enough to cover the city every day. And the wonderful thing that our people do is they have all these certifications, but they all start like our bomb squad is Engine 14. So those firefighters on Engine 14 aren't only the firefighters for that engine, they're also the medics on that engine. They also handle our bomb squad on the engine. So the ones assigned to there are doing 3 and 4 different tasks during the day.
Would the bomb squad, the focus on the bomb squad, hazmat, would these be things that grew out of America's experience with 9/11?
Yes, they're all post 9/11, 9/11, when we started looking at the fire service in a different way. I say our firefighters should actually be called all hazard technicians as opposed to firefighters anymore, because the focus did change. And unfortunately, we did have to look for bombs, and we did have to worry about hazmat. When you look around our city, for instance, like I have to do, I don't get to look at it for, we have wonderful museums and wonderful parks. I look at it that we have a rail yard that has hazardous chemicals going through it.
We have a huge rail yard.
Yes, we have great universities here which have chem labs in them. So these are the way I have to look at things, and what are we going to do if something happens there? So that's why our hazmat units, it doesn't have to be a terrorist attack. I mean, it can just be an accident happening, trucks going through our city every day carrying different chemicals. This is one of the reasons why we have geared up on our on hazmat, our rescues. Accidents, I mean, to get people out. We have 2 heavy rescues here with highly trained rescue technicians for entrapments, and they also work with the hazmat and building collapses, as we've seen in our city. So we are geared to do to mitigate about any emergency we have. Sort
of a workforce question on this. Given everything that a firefighter or all hazardous, whatever,
yeah.
What was your term?
All hazard technician.
All hazard technician needs to know. You're going to be forming another new class. What are the qualities a person needs today to be admitted and to be a good member of the Cincinnati Fire Department?
Well, the qualities we look for is first and foremost is to be a good team player. because everything we do in the fire service is team-oriented. Then from being team-oriented, you have to be very empathetic with people. You want to have to serve the community because that's what we do. As you said earlier, 75% of our runs are EMS runs. And you're dealing with people in crisis situations. And to be able to handle that, plus that you have to be very proactive. As you know, we're the ones that run in the building when everybody's running out of a building that's on fire. So they have to be very aggressive, very empathetic, community-oriented. We teach that in our class. When you go through our class, you will do 2 or 3 community service jobs.
And they need I would suspect, sort of a technological expertise that might not have been needed at sometime in the past.
Firefighters love to fix problems. If you want to fix a problem, go to a firehouse, and you will have 6 to 8 people all around you telling you how you can fix it.
With 6 or 8 ways?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I know I'm out of time. I'm going to tell my director. I'm hearing my director. I know I'm out of time, but there's just one more question I have to ask. I know that in Columbus, you did work with trying to reduce what were called frequent flyers with emergency medical calls. Certain people call lots of times.
Yes.
You know, there are those people who are having a heart attack, and but there are those people that, it's sort of the substitute for how do I get to the hospital.
Correct.
What did you do in Columbus, and can it be implemented here?
What they did in Columbus is, especially for people who have a problem with alcoholism or drugs, is we reached out to that community, and we recruited some of the recovering alcoholics. They were given 2 medic units that were our second line, obviously not first line medic units, walkie-talkies, and when our people would, our medics would go on the street, they'd get a call for a person down. If it happened to be someone that was inebriated, what they would do, instead of calling the police or taking them to the hospital and taking up beds, which didn't help anyone, they would call for what they call a reach-out worker, alcohol control officer. They would come, and they would take them to a halfway house or a rehab center where they could get treatment and be taken care of and actually handle the problem, which took it away from our people, because it's frustrating to our people when they go out and they know that the people they're running on, they need help. They don't need me. They don't need the fire department, but they do need help. Right. And there's a movement now that's going around the country called community paramedicine, and which is kind of a step like what Columbus did with the alcohol program. And we're looking into that and seeing how we can get into the community and help the citizens who maybe need a daily help, but they don't need someone on 911 to come on an emergency. And so we're looking into that.
Well, thank you very much, not only you as a person, but for the department that you head and all the work that the firefighters do, and not just in Cincinnati, but all over our region. It's great, and I look forward to having you back.
Great, Dan. Appreciate it. Okay.
Stay tuned. Monday is St. Patrick's Day. Although people love to talk about this as a German city, it's also an Irish city. Thank you. Everybody pretends they are Irish on St. Patrick's Day, but for some people, exploring and embracing their Irish heritage is important year-round. Welcome back. 10 years ago, I was asked to conduct over 30 oral history interviews with members of the local self-identified Irish community. It was a real eye-opener. Some were immigrants themselves. Some came from families that had been here for 5 or more generations. Some grew up in homes listening to Irish music, eating Irish foods, and reading Irish literature. But some didn't fit my stereotype at all. That came home especially during an interview with Dr. Robert Smith, the founder of the Family and Community Health Department at the University of Cincinnati College of Medicine. I knew Dr. Smith grew up in Dublin, but about 10 minutes into the interview, none of the questions seemed to work. Something was wrong. Something was wrong with my assumptions. A very few direct questions quickly clarified that he was an Irish Jew. I hadn't even considered that possibility. I am joined this morning by Cincinnati as Cincinnati in America celebrates its Irish heritage on the Feast of St. Patrick by Kent Covey, the managing director and president of the 4-year-old Irish Heritage Center of Greater Cincinnati. Kent, welcome to Newsmakers. Why the center? What do you do?
We promote and try to bring to the community the Irish heritage. We also support the community in which we are located, Columbia, Tusculum. And we're there really for future generations so that they know what their Irish heritage means and how they got here and what it does for them.
What's your reaction when people say, oh, Cincinnati, yes, a German city?
They're right. German is definitely the first ethnicity here. Irish is the second, and that's not that well known. But the Irish did an awful lot to build the infrastructure of this city, from the roads to the original streetcar system.
To the canal?
To the canal, and then probably filled it in. I remember at one point people talking about the diggers and the fillers, and they thought that the fillers came right after the diggers, and you know, it took such a long time to get that done. Yeah. But the Irish were definitely involved in the infrastructure throughout the city.
Yeah, and really, if you look at the census data from 1850 and 1860, by 1860, over 48% of everybody living in Cincinnati had been born in another country.
Right.
Foreign born, over 48%. A huge percentage of that, I think it's about 35%, were Irish at that point. So yes, a lot of Germans, but an awful lot of Irish came in that mid-19th century period.
Oh, definitely. That was when the potato famine hit Ireland between 1845 and 1850. And unfortunately, they came from a very agrarian, rural existence, and they got to the big city and said, wow, what do we do here? Of course, they kept to themselves originally. And in the Civil War, I think they really earned their stripes, if you will, as Americans. Some 150,000, I believe, fought in the Civil War on both sides.
Now, what's the situation with Ireland in recent decades has gone through an economic burst, and there was the Irish Tiger, and I know that has fallen on a little bit of hard times, but so has everybody else.
Right.
And there was, to some extent, sort of a reversal of people going back to Ireland.
Oh yes, they had reverse immigration, and the families were coming back and buying property. They had the big bubble, bigger bubble than we had.
Much bigger bubble, and really expensive.
I believe 30% of the economy was tied up in construction.
Are there still, though, people coming from Ireland to the United States and ending up in Cincinnati?
Very much so.
Yeah.
We see there's a woman, Patricia O'Brien, who is actually, I guess, at Children's Hospital in pediatrics. Got her training over here because there was nothing that she could do in Ireland. She's trying to get back at this point, but being trained in a foreign country, there are rules.
There are always rules. So you do a variety of things. You host events. You host music, and we played a little bit of music that was at the center. You also have a facility, so, formerly a school, so you have performance space. You have a lot of space that you can grow into. Do you also, are you trying to collect the materials of the Irish community?
Oh, we are. My wife and I go every year to Ireland. In fact, we were there in January. We met with some people from the Department of Foreign Affairs. In that case, the grant approvers, and we applied for a grant from the Irish government. But yes, we collect artifacts. We have things from the 1798 rebellion that we got from the former mayor of Wexford City. We've met with the arts and culture minister from Northern Ireland and from the Republic of Ireland at different times. And that's one of our things. In January, we open an exhibit on Samuel Beckett, a Nobel Prize-winning author that came from the National Library of Ireland. And we visit the museums and so on and try to gather those things.
Have you ever seen the letter that Daniel O'Connell wrote to the Irish citizens of Cincinnati. It's one of the most fascinating pieces of
No, I haven't, and I've been at O'Connell's, home in Ireland and visited the museum.
Well,
there.
I'll have to tell you about it.
Great.
But you're holding events tomorrow night?
And tonight.
Tonight
Yes, we have
the center?
We have a wonderful band called Derek Warfield and the Young Wolf Tones.
Okay, I'm almost out of time, so let me tell people how to find it.
Okay.
You're out on Eastern Avenue,
right.
3905 Eastern, and just go to irishcenterofcincinnati.com.
Correct.
Lots of information there. Telephone number is 533-0100. So, or 333, what is it?
No, 533-0100.
Okay, I'm having trouble saying. Thank you very much. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you for making Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. Join us again next week to meet the men and the women shaping our community for a better future. Have a good week.